Good morning, I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we are the Castros.
Happy Monday to all our branchies. It seemed like a very quiet weekend.
Oo, walang masyadong
Very few stories
But of course, yung sa Syria, that's a big one.
I mean, in general, but the Syrian issue is medyo malaki. Pero it's been brewing naman for a long time.
Yes.
So we knew it was bound to happen.
And then, of course, we would like to thank House of Puto Bao.
Hindi
diba?
bao. Bao kami lang bao. House of Puto Bao.
Kanin.
Parang ano siya suman na may...
Sapin-sapin.
Sapin-sapin.
Kinain na namin
Kakaiba yung presentation nila talagang unique.
Pinoy na Pinoy.
Pinoy na Pinoy. Alright, we're serving you news in a countdown.
All that before your second cup of coffee. This is Brunch. Starting our countdown with our new Cardinal, Caloocan Bishop Pablo Virgilio David was formally elevated to rank of Cardinal over the weekend. David received his red hat during a consistory in St. Peter's Basilica in Vatican. The ceremony was led by Pope Francis. David is now the 10th Cardinal from the Philippines. He is also among the 3 Cardinal electors, or those who are eligible to vote for a new Pope.
Still in the Vatican, church officials allayed concerns over Pope Francis's bruise on his chin. A Vatican spokesperson said the bruise was caused by a contusion when the Pope hit a nightstand with his chin. The 87-year-old Pope still led the ceremony of installing new cardinals, including Caloocan Bishop Pablo Virgilio David. Pope Francis is now using a wheelchair due to knee and back pain.
Wow, how old is Pope?
87 yan. Sinabi doon, 87 years old.
87. Oo. Kitang-kita kasi yun talaga dito. Dito yung kanyang pasa. And I can imagine what happened, di ba yung sa nightstand. Siguro pag upo niya or nadulas siya, gumanon, tumama sa baba niya.
Kasi sa edad niya, usually dapat may ano na yan alam ko may bantay yan
Of course. Ayun ang laki nung pasa niya. Pakita natin ulit.
Yan. Pero yung mind niya is still very sharp
Yes.
Ayaw niya kasi hindi nila makontrol tong Pope na to I mean, he doesn't want to slow down and they can't tell him to slow down. So,
Ang tawag sa kanya siya yung Pope na very inclusive yung mga decision na ginagawa niya. So, going back naman doon sa Caloocan Bishop natin,
Pablo,
na-elevate sa rank of Cardinal over the weekend, si Bishop Pablo Virgilio David. And if you can remember, he was the one, he was the one of the critics nung Duterte drug war nung 2017.
Yes,
he even received death threats because of speaking up against the drug war.
Naka-attend na tayo ng
Sa Caloocan kasi siya, remember si Kian de los Santos sa Caloocan.
Pero naka-attend na tayo ng mass niya kasi dumalaw siya sa church natin, sa area natin.
I remember.
Pero kasi what's critical here kasi is yung the next Pope will be voted from within the conclave of cardinals.
Yes.
So kasi recently ang front runner natin was si Cardinal
Luis Tagle.
And then if you have another Filipino voting, so it ups his chances. But alam mo naman yung red smoke, gray smoke, blue smoke, diba? Ano yun?
So yun yung nila, pagpili.
Ano nga yun kung blue?
Hindi ako masyado familiar So pero eto there are actually 4 living, 3, no? Tama ba? Cardinals here, Filipino cardinals of New Philippines. Tama. One of the 5.
Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, si David.
Yeah.
Si Onshaco ba yan?
Si Advincula.
Advincula,
So, yun nga sinasabi nga dito, he is among those cardinal electors na eligible na bumoto, 'di ba? At saka po pwede na siya mag-advise doon sa ating Santo Papa. Doon sa pagboto na yun, ang tawag nila ay nabanggit mo na kanina,
conclave. Alright, let's go.
For our top 9, let's check in on the weather. Pag-asa weather forecaster Veronica Torres is now on the line. Good morning.
Good morning din po sa inyo, pati na rin sa ating mga viewers. Sa kasalukuyan nga po ay Intertropical Convergence Zone or ITCZ nakaapekto sa Mindanao, while shear line affecting the eastern sections of central and southern Luzon. Northeast monsoon still affecting northern Luzon. For Bicol Region, Marinduque, Romblon, Oriental Mindoro, Batangas, Laguna, Rizal, Quezon, and Aurora, we're expecting cloudy skies with scattered rains and isolated thunderstorms due to shear line. And ITCZ will bring cloudy skies with scattered rains and isolated thunderstorms over Visayas, Mindanao, and Palawan, while Northeast Monsoon will bring cloudy skies with rains over Cagayan Valley and Cordillera Administrative Region. Better weather is expected over Ilocos Region and the rest of Central Luzon, although there will be chances of light rains, and over Metro Manila and the rest of Luzon, we're expecting also better weather conditions with chances of localized thunderstorms.
Go ahead.
We also have a gale warning raised over the seaboards of northern Luzon and eastern seaboard of central Luzon. So sea travel is risky for small sea vessels po.
Alright, since December na, no, ilan pa ba ang bagyong natitira and ilan pa ang sa tingin nyo na possible na pumasok pa bago matapos ng taon?
Opo, so for December, based sa assessment na ating mga kasamang climatologists, posible isa o dalawang bagyo ang papasok or mabubuo sa ating PAR. Pero sa ating current monitoring, wala pa naman tayo na monitor na LPA or bagyo sa loob or malapit sa ating PAR.
Thank you, diba? Thank you, Lord.
Thank you, Lord.
So, based po dun sa inyong explanation kanina, the rains that we experienced over the weekend was brought about by ITZZ, shear line at saka amihan. Tama po?
Tama po.
Okay, so hanggang kailan po natin ito mararamdaman?
Inaasahan natin na yung maulang panahon caused by several other weather systems kung sa shear line, possible hanggang Thursday, December 12. Pero yung ITCZ, although possible magka-break bukas, pero around Wednesday, posible magtuloy-tuloy pa rin ulit yung mga pag-ulan.
Yung mga pag-ulan na po na mararanasan na po yan gaano po kalakas?
So usually, moderate, light to moderate with at times heavy. Pero kapag meron na tayong weather advisory, kapag kasali na, usually mga light, pwedeng moderate to heavy, heavy to intense, at intense to torrential. Pero sa ngayon naman, more on moderate to heavy yung mga ulan natin.
Okay, yung kasi ang tanong ng marami, safe na ba maglabas ng manipis na sweater itong last few weeks ng December?
Opo, sa ngayon naman po ay pwede pa naman na tayong magsuot ng mga malalamig mga pangmalamig nating mga jacket, although may mga chance kasi na posible maging maalinsangan din yung panahon kapag medyo humihina yung epekto ng amihan sa atin.
How about yung mga areas like Baguio City, Tagaytay, sa Rizal? Kamusta naman? Lumalamig naman doon?
Opo, mababa pa rin naman yung temperatura na na-record, pero yung base sa pinakamababa kasi usually January talaga eh.
Okay.
Alright, sige. Maraming salamat po sa inyong oras. That was Pag-asa Weather Forecaster, Veronica Torres.
Daming na-excite kasi maglabas ng ugly Christmas sweater.
Malamig na pala.
Malamig na pala. Okay, let's go. Emerging at the 8th spot are about the upcoming products in Kadiwa stores. The Agriculture Department has announced their plan of selling two kinds of rice that are only less than 40 pesos. The so-called Sulit rice is set at 36 pesos per kilo, while the Nutri rice is at 38 pesos per kilo. The Sulit and Nutri rice will hit Kadiwa stores on January 2025. The DA has earlier launched the Rice for All program, in which 40 pesos per kilo of rice were sold in selected Metro Manila markets. The rice is set to be sold in selected MRT and LRT stations starting tomorrow, and the DA is planning to sell them in more train stations.
Especially from Monumento, yung mga nasa north, dyan po ang pasok. No? Dito rin po sa may SM North EDSA station, dyan din po yung marami rin yung tao, especially during rush hours. Mas maganda siguro kung saan po maximize natin yung dami ng tao.
To get their thoughts about this, we have Samahang Industriya ng Agrikultura o SINAG President Rosendo So.
Good morning.
Morning, Angelo and
Angela.
Angela, magandang umaga.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today po. What do you think of the planned selling of Sulit and Nutri rice next year?
Yeah, malaking bagay yon. We hope na masustain, no? Kasi ang tinitingnan pa rin natin yung pangako ng NEDA na bababa ng 43 pesos yung imported rice. Na in which ang nawala na tariff natin kasi yung collection is nasa 12.5 billion na, no? End of the year, aabot ng 15 billion ang nakikita natin na wala. So sana nabigay sa consumer yun kung bumaba yung presyo ng bigas na pangako ng NEDA. Pero hindi nangyari. So ang tingin natin is nawala na sa ating farmers yung 15 bilyones and nawala pa sa ating consumer na bumaba yung presyo.
But do you think po ba okay ito for long-term basis? Knowing na ito ang niro-roll out po nila ngayon more on Metro Manila.
Oo, yeah. Ang tingin natin is kasi subsidy yan. So baka hindi kayang ang distribution kasi nakikita namin is around 2 to 3% of the total market So maliit lang, no? So yung 97% na bumibili sa merkado, anong mangyayari? Bibili pa rin ba sa 50 to 60 pesos? So yun ang tanong natin.
Totoo.
Alright, also ang tanong dito kasi is ang worry ng marami po ang sustainability nitong project, no? Also given na madami pong may expect tayong papasok na bagyo next year, baka yung mga so-called yung mga bigas niya, mga masira. So, yan ang worry po ng marami. Do you think kaya i-sustain ito?
Yeah, yun ang isang kailangan pag-aralan kasi ang tingin namin kung sana yung collection ng tariff tuloy-tuloy sana na 35%, umabot sana tayo this year ng 46 billion no, yung collection. Kung yung 46 billion mabibigay sa magsasaka, sabihin natin yung 10,000 pesos per hectare.
Yes.
Doon may mas malaking pag-asa na bumaba yung presyo ng bigas dahil yung production cost ibababa. So pag bumaba yung production cost, yung benta ng magsasaka pwedeng mas mababa ang palay para pag meal ng palay sa bigas, in general, mas malaki ang makakontribute sa ating mga consumer. Compared sa tariff reduction na nung huling interview kay Secretary Balisacan ng NEDA, hindi daw nila control yung retail. So, ang tingin natin, walang mangyayari dun sa pagbaba ng taripa. Yung July, sinabi na namin yun na hindi yun ang solusyon, pero ginawa pa rin, nawala pa rin yung ating collection para sa magsasaka and hindi nakatulong dun sa pagbaba ng presyo sa ating consumer.
Sir Sendo, no, yung kasi sinasabi nila dito sa Nutri-Rice ay this is good for consumers who have diabetes. Tapos yung sa Super Rice naman, it's super white, it's white pero super broken. Nakita niyo na po ba yung kalidad nito?
Yeah, yung yung sinasabi nila kasi yung pwedeng i-meal yan, no? Pwedeng i-meal yan at regular meal na medyo hindi ganun ka-puti yung bigas, pero yung nutrient mas mataas. Pero yun, hindi rin pwedeng i-store ng matagal yun dahil yung giniling na yan is para sa yung quality dapat ma-consume na mas maikling panahon. So, hindi natin alam kung how many yung target ng ating government. Pero yun, makakatulong yun sa inventory dahil kung inaasahan natin yung local rice na mas malaki yung produce, no? Yung meal magiging regular meal para at least mas malaki ang output ng mga miller. Yun ang nakikita natin. Pero yung inaasahan ni Secretary is yung local production pa rin. So hindi ito nakatulong yung sa tariff cut. So ang hiningi natin sa NEDA is ibalik pa rin yung taripa, at least yung collection next year, maibibigay sa magsasaka para at least patulungan ng ating mga magsasaka.
Sir Rosendo, ano lang konti, you're talking about production. No? So I'd like to ask kasi, we all know naman itong recent last few months, tinamaan ng sunod-sunod na bagyo ang Central Luzon. So kamusta na po ang mga rice farmers natin in those areas? Nakakahabol na ba sila? Nakaka-recover na po ba sila?
Hindi, no? Dahil buwaba lang yung production and ang problema pa, bumaba pa yung price dahil doon sa imported. Pero ang problema is hindi nakatulong yung pagbababa ng price doon sa retail. So yun ang isang concern natin. Dapat talaga is suportahan itong season crop na ito kasi wala nang bagyo ito mula now up to itong April, May, no? So sana yung irrigated area masuportahan para lumawak yung itong production natin dito sa dry season crop.
Pero Sir Rosendo, moving forward, no, alam naman natin kung kailan pumapasok yung mga bagyo. So ano dapat gawin ng gobyerno ngayon pa lang para at least pag tumama mga sunod-sunod na bagyo next year, ma-mitigate yung impact nito?
Yeah, pinakamaganda is itong dry season crop palawakan, no? Malaki ang suporta sa ating mga magsasaka. And in-expect naman natin itong dry season crop ang harvest is mas malaki yung production dahil walang bagyo, no? Nag-usap na kami ni Secretary, worried siya kasi baka magtanim magkaroon ng problema pa up to December yung bagyo. Pero dito sa Northern Luzon area, Region 1, 2, 3, ito yung rice producing. Pagka binhi pa lang and maliit pa rin yung tanim, hindi masyado apektado dun sa calamities, no? Yung tubig na sinasabi natin, kung harvest time na doon nakakaproblema. So tingin natin is dapat ma-concentrate yung itong mga area nito para ma-maximize yung production.
Alright, on that note, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras, Sinag President Rosendo So.
Maraming salamat po.
Alright, coming up, is Mary Jane Veloso coming home before Christmas?
And another apparent incident of harassment by China in the West Philippine Sea has been reported. What did they do this time? I wonder what.
Ako napanood ko yan yung video na yan dun sa atin sa
Wonder
One News
what
Instant.
they did. What did they did?
Alright, sige, we are just getting started. More of our top 10 news when Brunch returns. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching Brunch here on One News.
Uy, good morning.
Sino? Babati ba tayo?
Hindi, yung mga nagpadala sa atin ng House of Puto Bao.
Yes.
Maraming salamat sa Suman Hybrid, Sapin-Sapin Hybrid, ano tawag? Latik Hybrid Peanut. Sarap, masarap. Nakatatlo na
Batiin
ako.
ko lang si Zaldi Bueno, si Gabi Romero, si Roselier Bonita. Yan, marami siyang mga komento tungkol sa West Philippine Sea. Of course, si VJ, si Tito Naldi, Tita Daisy.
Uy, good morning sa inyong lahat.
Nina Benales and the rest of our Jessie Mendez family. Of course, si Alex Fuentes.
Uy.
Si Ralph Domingo.
Sam Pokemon Go.
Sam Pokemon
Good morning.
Go. Gary Field, si Mix Ebron. Yan yung mga natin, mga
regulars.
Usual suspects natin. Si Samar Cabrera, si Ronald Maxtay, Geraldine Balolong. Padami sila ng padami. Of course, si Leonie Valdesoto, si Artol, John Beam, Oscar, nanonood din siya sa atin. Of course, yung mga nakasama ko kahapon over the weekend sa Negros Occidental, maraming salamat sila Miss Luan, sila Kuya RB, yung nag-drive, si Ate Jen, yan, and the rest. Kukunin ko muna yung mga pangalan nila. Si Kuya Bimboy, yan. Alright, let's continue with our countdown. Going straight now to our top 7, President Bongbong Marcos hosted a Christmas gift-giving ceremony for children at Malacanang. The details in this report by mobile journalist Julie Baiza.
As the holiday season approaches, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. led a nationwide gift-giving program in Malacanang yesterday. The Balik Sigla Bigay Saya Nationwide Gift-Giving Day brought joy to more than 30,000 children nationwide. It was done in collaboration with the Department of Social Welfare and Development and some shelters and orphanages.
Welcome back sa Malacanang. At alam niyo naman, basta pag Pasko, ito ay ino-open house namin dahil ganyan talaga ang naging tradisyon sa pamilya namin, pamilya Marcos. Nung bata pa ako at dito pa kami nakatira, basta't Pasko, meron kaming handa para sa ating mga maliliit na naalagaan. Kaya nandito po tayo ulit.
PBBM, along with First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos and Presidential sons Simon and Vincent, personally handed out the gift bags to them. The gift set includes trolley bag, pillow, socks, raincoat, tumbler, watch, and towel. The President also directed government agencies to ensure the spirit of Christmas reaches Filipino communities despite the challenges.
Nahirapan tayo itong nakaraang taon at tinamaan tayo ng nagumpisa sa La Nina na nagtagtuyot ang ating agrikultura. Tapos sinundan naman ng una yung El Nino, sinundan naman ng La Nina na puro bagyo naman.
He also urged the Filipinos to continue embracing the Christmas traditions.
Kaya sana naman mag-Merry Christmas lang tayo kasi tayo ay nabigyan ng kaunting oras, kaunting pagkakataon na makasama ang ating mga mahal sa buhay, nakapag-celebrate ng konti, magsaya ng konti, at kumain ng masyadong maraming lechon at saka mga hamon. Yan ang Pasko para sa Pilipino.
Before the program, the President personally drove a trackless train with the first family and some children around the venue. Mobile journalist Julie Baiza, We Are One News.
Ayun. So, yun, every year naman ginagawa nila to eh. They open Malacanang for gift giving, 'di ba? Oo.
Alam mo na natuwa lang ako kay PBBM.
Bakit?
Kasi nasasanay ako naka-brush up siya.
Tas
Mega gel, nakabarong.
ganun.
Ngayon, naka-button down, nakita ang dibdib, nakasukbit ang
Naka-plaid.
glasses. Naka-plaid, tas yung hair niya nakatayo.
Ang mahilig mag-plaid doon, naalala ko si
PRRD. Red
diba?
plaid ang go-to shirt
Lagi
niya.
nakaganyan siya
Oo.
lagi. Oo. Ngayon si
Ano daw sabi nila, sakit daw ang ngipin niya. Punta ng dentista.
Pero ayun nga, pero I remember, sana ma-check din natin yung kalagayan ng mga kababayan natin na nasunugan, 'di ba? Marami different parts, especially diyan sa Manila, 'di ba, yung Isla Puting Bato, sa Tondo. And I remember specifically sinabi ni President Bongbong Marcos doon sa leaders ng LGU na may mga nasunugan dapat makaalis na sila doon, mapaalis na yung mga tao, yung mga victims ng fire sa evacuation center, maibalik na sila sa kanilang mga tahanan o mailagay sila sa mga relocation project para naman sa Pasko hindi sila magpapasko sa evacuation centers.
Pag-usapan na natin ng long-term housing sa safe areas, 'di ba, na malayo sa peligro. O hindi lang yung tuwing election nagkakot ng ayoko na magsalita.
Alright, let's continue with our countdown.
Settling at the sixth spot is about the Marcos siblings. President Bongbong Marcos and Senator Amy Marcos went together in the gathering of the League of Provinces of the Philippines, or LPP. Senator Amy said she was with her ading, or younger sibling, in Ilocano for the event last week. This is the first time the two were seen together after Vice President Sara Duterte verbally attacked the president for the past few weeks. While she criticized her former running mate, VP Sara still considers Senator Amy as her friend. The senator and presidential sister distanced herself from the conflict between PBBM and VP Sara. Siyempre,
parang ano yan big deal ngayon yan because for the longest time, hindi sila magkakasama in one frame. Do you remember nung piniresenta ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos yung kanyang senatorial lineup? Kasama dun si
pero wala si
Amy Marcos yung name niya pero she didn't go, diba? Because sabi nga niya, parang she wants to stay in the middle, independent, no? That's the term that she said. Kasi
pero it's very difficult to try to maintain independence kasi yung Marcos brand, they've always been solid together all these years. So, ang tao, hindi sila sanay na yung watak ang dalawang Marcos siblings.
Kasi ang nakikita ng tao ngayon, si Senator Amy Marcos daw ang, kumbaga, ang tawag doon, bearer ng legacy ng Marcos. While si PBBM ay doing something else. Yun ang sinasabi nila. Because, well, nakikita naman natin how this administration is going when it comes to foreign policy, diba? Yung politics here.
Alam mo, if you look at yung politics at saka mga policies ni the late President Ferdinand Marcos Sr., very similar ang mga policies niya to PBBM. Yung mga initial first few years na policies niya. Magaganda kasi ang foreign policies ni Marcos Sr. noong 60s when he assumed the presidency. Maganda yung mga economic programs niya, maganda yung infrastructure. Yun lang nabahirang kasi ng corruption issues later on.
At saka, yung mga...
But under his tutelage kasi...
issues,
that yung during martial law. But when he started out kasi sayang, maganda yung programs niya sa culture, sa sports, maganda rin ang programs niya doon. Katingin ka sa akin dito.
No, but yun nga, but going back to Senator Amy Marcos, yung sinasabi ko nga na importante na nakita nila itong dalawa na to together. Kasi nga, even nung earlier this year and even late last year, may mga, di ba, kumakalat na mga balita noon na hindi nga daw pumupunta din ng Malacanang si Senator Amy Marcos.
Yeah.
Ini-invite naman daw siya sa mga lunches sa Malacanang pero hindi lang siya pumupunta, yung mga yun.
I'm sure nag-text
Tapos iba nagkaroon nga din siya
ng
statement na naiinis daw siya both kay VP Sara at saka kay President Bongbong Marcos. Kasi siya nga yung architect ng unity team. Tapos just happened. Siipit siya.
Para may dalawa siyang anak na or kapatid na nagpapatayan.
Hindi niya alam gagawin.
Huwag ka naman seryoso.
Diba?
Shadow kang nag-joke ako kanina
Ano ba joke mo? Hindi ko gets
kasi kung magmata ka top to bottom
No, hindi. Alright, let's continue with our countdown. On our top 5 is the COMELEC. The poll body is set to start working on the ballot phase templates for the 2025 May elections. COMELEC Chairman Attorney George Garcia said they will begin the task this week. Garcia explained that each area will have a different ballot phase because they have different local candidates. A ballot phase refers to a single side of a sheet on which some or all of the names of candidates are printed. Yan. Kasi nirelease ni Chairman George Garcia yung statement na yan during a automated machine caravan in Davao. Okay, and so more or less, we have 2,000 cities and municipalities over the country. So, it's going to be, sabi nga ni Chairman George Garcia, medyo matrabaho itong gagawin nila kasi nga 2,000 cities, more or less 2,000 cities and municipalities over the city and over the country rather. And each city or municipality will have different ballot phases. Dahil yun nga, nasabi naman din natin that per city or per municipality, iba-iba naman yung mga candidates dyan.
Yeah.
So yun yung mga gagawin nila. They will also do yung ballot phase ng Bangsamoro. Wala. Although, di ba, may mga panukala na baka i-postpone muna yung election doon.
Parang hinain nila yung sa Congress na request if they can move it muna because medyo magulo daw ang pag-divide ng power. May power struggle
kasi, diba,
nangyari.
Recently, nagkaroon ng ruling ang Supreme Court
na
Sulu is not part of BARM anymore. Yeah. So, may mga panukala nga na baka daw i-postpone nga yung election nun. Pero sinasabi nga dito ng COMELEC, alam mo, status quo sila. Gagawin nila kung ano yung nakaplano sa kanila. No? So, kung isususpend yung election sa Bangsamoro, then they will not use. Kung tuloy, at least they still have the ballots. So,
yeah.
Alright, let's continue with our countdown.
Now, placing at the fourth spot is about Mary Jane Veloso. The Justice Department expressed optimism that the Filipina convict in Indonesia will fly back home before Christmas. The Justice Department has yet to secure a date for Veloso's flight back to the Philippines. DOJ also promised their Indonesian counterpart that they will punish OFW recruiters. They allegedly put the drugs in Veloso's luggages without her knowledge in 2010. Veloso's mother, Celia, was able to call her daughter last week. She also reiterated her plea again to the Marcos administration to grant clemency to Veloso.
Sinabi lang sa amin na ano raw ba, dadalaw raw ba kami o hindi, o baka siya na raw ang uwi. Yun ang sabi sa amin. Yun lang po naman hinihintay namin talaga dahil alam naman po ng lahat na talagang biktima lang siya. Matagal naman na siya nakakulong. Sana po ibigay na po nila yung clemency kay Mervin para sa Pasko, sama-sama na kami.
Ayun.
Actually,
so hopefully, by Christmas, andito na siya. Pero kukulong pa rin siya kasi wala pa naman clemency na ginagrant siya.
Yan ang argument kasi ng yung team niya before sa case, yung linagay lang ng recruiter. Ang argument naman kasi or naging parang finding ng judge, number one, Indonesia is hard on drugs. Number two, parang that kind of weight, when you carried your luggage, hindi mo naramdaman na may ganong kabigat. Wouldn't you look at your luggage? Parang hindi mo ba titignan ang luggage mo pag may bigat siya ng ilang kilos na dagdag? Siyempre, sisilipin mo. Parang yan ang sinasabi ng judge. But we all know naman now that she's coming home. And then yung recruiters na yan are being put to justice. Pero ang issue rin dito is sino ang sindikato na didistribute nitong drugs. Yan ang gusto hanapin ng Pilipinas ngayon.
Kaya ngayon yung kinakatakutan din ng parents, yung mga magulang ni Mary Jane.
Noong una, sabi doon na lang siya.
Oo, doon na lang or sana daw hindi na lang siya ulit magsalita doon sa kaso. Kasi ongoing yung trial doon sa Nueva Ecija, if I'm not mistaken, doon sa mga illegal recruiters ni Mary Jane Veloso. Kasi nga daw, prior to that, ay may mga umaali-aligid na rin sa bahay nila, mga years ago. Lalo na nung fresh yung balita nga na nakulong doon si Mary Jane.
Pero na-explain kasi sa parents niya na if she stays in Indonesia, she might be safer from the syndicate. Pero ang problema, she'll be inside death row. And anytime gusto sabihin ng judge to order the execution, pwede mangyari. So it's better nandito ka na. Diba?
So basta ngayon nga, ang maganda dyan ngayon, wala na siya sa death row.
Yes.
Diba? Uuwi siya ngayon, ang tanging pakiusap na lang of course ng pamilya niya is mag-grant nga ng clemency itong si Pangulong Bongbong Marcos. Pero I don't think naman na pag-uwi niya dito, agad-agad yan. Siyempre, gagalangin ng Pilipinas yung desisyon ng Indonesia and then magkakaroon pa yan ng mga consultation.
Saka any decisions to be made daw moving forward will be in coordination with the courts of Indonesia.
So yun nga, di ba, napag-usapan din natin naman yan dito the last time na actually it was the Indonesian government who contacted Philippines regarding Mary Jane Veloso's return to the Philippines. Kasi nga may mga policy sila doon ngayon since the new president nila, if I'm not mistaken, yun nga, yung mga nasa death row, tapos good behavior naman within 10 years, ay pwede nila maipabalik doon sa country of origin. So, ayun, actually, before this decision came out, yung family supposedly ni Mary Jane Veloso, yung mga anak niya, kasama yung nanay niya, pupunta sa Indonesia to visit her December. So ngayon naman, hopefully, magkita-kita na sila kahit dito na sa Philippines.
Nadalaw sila at least dito na sa correctional.
Tapos sabi ni Mary Jane Veloso, yung natutunan daw niya doon sa Indonesian prison or jail, na yung parang pagtatay-dye ata ng mga clothes. Dadali niya dito yon para pwede rin niyang maging parang side hustle, kahit nakakulong siya, pwede siya makapag-negosyo, makatulong ulit pa rin siya sa pamilya niya. Yun. Alright, that's good news for them, ha? Paskong hatid para sa kanila. Alright, let's continue with our countdown. Now on our top 3, Filipinos in Syria are urged to take necessary precautions as rebel fighters claim to have taken control of Damascus. Here's a report.
Syrians were seen celebrating in the streets of Damascus on Sunday as rebels declared President Bashar al-Assad's ouster after seizing control of the Syrian capital. This ends his family's iron-fisted rule after more than 13 years of civil war in a seismic moment for the Middle East. Rebel commander Hassan Abdul Ghani earlier said that insurgent forces fully liberated Syria's central city of Homs. Some local residents were seen raising peace signs. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu hailed the ousting of Syria's Bashar al-Assad.
This is a historic day for the Middle East. The collapse of the Assad regime, the tyranny in Damascus offers great opportunity, but also is fraught with significant dangers.
Moscow reportedly gave asylum to Assad and his family. In a statement, our Foreign Affairs Department called on Filipinos in Syria to take the necessary precautions and to stay in contact with the Philippine Embassy in Damascus. The DFA also urged concerned parties to exercise restraint and to refrain from further violence. Syria remains under Alert Level 4, which entails mandatory repatriation for Filipinos.
Oh, ayun ha. So sinasabi nga ng DFA natin to stay in contact with the Philippine Embassy dun sa mga kababayan natin na nasa Syria. Philippine Embassy in Damascus para dun sa iba pang mga instruction or stay away from the yung dun sa gulo nila. Alright.
Okay, let's get updates on our kababayans in Syria.
John Reyes of the Philippine Embassy in Damascus is now joining us via Zoom. Good morning po.
Hi, good morning Angelo and Angela.
Opo.
Mula sa bansang Syria.
Opo. Kumusta po ba yung sitwasyon dyan? May kaguluhan pa po ba?
Humupa naman ako ngayong araw na to and actually sa mga darating na oras baka may formal turnover po.
Ayun, pero para may overview lang po kami, no? Ilan po ba ang mga Pilipino ngayon na nasa Syria?
To be exact, 703 po ang nandito. And sila po ay pawang mga nakapag-asawa ng mga Syrians at ang mga iba po ay nagtatrabaho rito.
So in other words, yung iba po mga residents na sa Syria?
Opo, opo.
Okay.
So ano po yung mga trabaho ng iba po dyan natin na mga kababayan?
Karamihan po sila ay mga household service workers and yung iba po ay mga nagtatrabaho sa mga restaurants. Mangilan-ngilan lang po yung mga professionals.
Meron din po ba tayong impormasyon kung mga ilang taon na po sila dyan, karamihan, doon po sa mga kababayan natin na nandiyan dyan sa Syria?
Yung karamihan po sa kanila, mula po nung nagsimula yung crisis dito noong 2011, ayan, dito na po sila. No?
So far po ba, kasi nabanggit niyo po na yung mga iba naman ay nakapag-asawa na, yung iba may mga workers, no? May mga nag-request na po ba ng repatriation?
So far, wala naman, no? Ang natanggap namin, sila po ay ligtas at nasa mabuting kalagayan, no? So, wala naman po kami natanggap na repatriation request.
Just in case po, paano po ba makikipag-coordinate or makakakontak po sa embassy yung ating mga kababayan dyan?
Meron po tayong Facebook page, Philippine Embassy in Syria, at nandun po nakalagay din po yung email natin, p.damascus@gmail.com, at ang mga telephone numbers po na pwede po nilang tawagan.
Meron din po ba kayong mga ginagawang koordinasyon sa pagitan po ng pamilya naman po dito sa Pilipinas ng mga nagtatrabaho sa Syria?
May mga panaka-naka kaming natatanggap na mga pagtatanong o humihingi ng tulong at yun naman po ay kaagad na po nating in-actionan at binibigyan ng solusyon.
Sir Johnny, baka po pwede niyo po kami mabigyan ng malinaw na picture ng paglalarawan doon po sa nangyayari ngayon dyan. Although nasabi nyo nga po, medyo kumalma na po ngayon yung sitwasyon, pero before that po, kasi we've seen a lot of footages, videos na take over na nga daw po itong Damascus. Talaga po bang nakaalis na yung presidente dyan? Can you give us a picture po?
Well, last night was something different, no? Kasi nga po, katatapos lang, no? Nung kinahaponan po, naglatag po sila ng curfew. Sa susunod na minuto ay magtatapos na. No? Yun po ay isang hakbang nila para maitaguyod ang disiplina sa Damascus. No? Ngayon naman po siguro inaasahan namin na magiging mapayapa na ngayon. Lalo na po at may magiging formal turnover po yata mamaya mga ilang oras mula ngayon.
Yun po
when you say formal turnover, can you explain that to us po?
Ayon sa balita ay sasabihin kung ay papamigay sa mga kabilang grupo yung control ng pamahalaan.
Yes, sir.
Pero mananatili naman pong buo yung dating gabinete ng nakarang presidente. Yan po ang pinangako ng bagong administrasyon.
Pero so far po, sir, sino po ang tinitignan nilang magiging bagong presidente po nandyan sa Syria? May pangalan ba na lumilitaw?
Wala pa po. Wala pa sa ngayon.
Okay.
Alright, once again, para po doon sa mga kababayan natin ngayon, especially ng mga nanonood po sa amin ngayon na meron pong mga kamag-anak sa Syria, paano po sila ulit makakapag-reach out sa Philippine Embassy dyan sa Damascus and other messages po na nais nyo pong iparating?
Yung mga nais kumontak sa mga kanilang kamag-anak dito, mangyari pong sumangguni sa embahada natin dito sa Syria. Meron po kaming Facebook page sa Philippine Embassy in Syria at ang email address namin po ay pe.damascus@gmail.com. Meron din po kaming hotline na +963-949-155-557.
Ayun, okay. Alright, patuloy po kami makikipag-coordinate sa inyo tungkol po sa mga mangyayari dyan po sa inyong lugar. But for the meantime, mag-iingat din po kayo, sir, ha? Maraming salamat. John Reyes from the Philippine Embassy in Damascus.
Maraming salamat din.
Alright, don't go away because we're not done yet. May dalawa pa tayo. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching Brunch here on One News. We'd like to mention our donors for today, food donors for today.
Puto Bao.
House of
Masarap
Puto
siya.
Bao.
May mani siya sa loob, Sarap.
Kaya ano siya hybrid suman.
Alam mo nung una tupig. Hindi pala.
Nung malayo.
Tripig pala siya. Digi, sabi mo, bilis may guess pa tayo.
Kala ko talong.
Okay. Sige, let's continue with our countdown.
Tripig. Now on our top two, the Philippines, Japan, and the United States held a multilateral maritime cooperative activity on Friday. The joint military exercise was conducted within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. Its focus was on improving the interoperability of defense doctrines, tactics, techniques, and procedures. Our armed forces said this highlights the commitment of the three nations in strengthening regional and international cooperation.
Yan. This happened right after nung mga incidents na naman sa West Philippine Sea with not just Chinese Coast Guard, but their
hit Malaysia?
Navy. No, yung Navy nila,
sorry.
diba?
But we also had with the Malaysia, diba? Nagkaroon ng issue lang. But not sa dagat.
Ang issue sa Malaysia is hindi nila parang may ang tawag doon, may
overlap.
Parang ganun, may sila, hindi nila nagustuhan yung maritime law natin.
Pero going back to China, what's new, China? Okay.
Alright, let's continue with our countdown. Emerging at the top spot are the recent harassment incidents in the West Philippine Sea. A Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources vessel was pointed with a high-intensity laser in Hasa-Hasa Shoal on December 2. The Philippine Coast Guard also emphasized that sending warships to the West Philippine Sea is up to the President, Bongbong Marcos. Here's a report.
This video was captured by BRP Matanam Daradapit while traveling to Hasa-Hasa Shoal on December 2. The strong light seen in the video is allegedly from a Chinese vessel that was stealing BRP Datu Tamblot. The Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources said that the ship was using a high-intensity laser. The red laser was pointed at a BFAR vessel 6 times for 5 minutes each. The BRP Batanam staff complained about the distracting brightness of the laser. This incident happened 2 days before Chinese vessels launched a water cannon attack against BFAR vessels in Scarborough and Escoda Shoal. China's People's Liberation Army Navy also tailed our vessels in the West Philippine Sea. The Philippine Coast Guard reiterated that it will not fall to the pressure and harassment of China.
Alam naman natin na sila mismo ang nagpa-violate ng UNCLOS. Sila mismo nagtitrespass ng ating exclusive economic zone. And it's very unprofessional to harass Filipino fishermen.
PCG spokesperson for West Philippine Sea Commodore J. Tariela said it is up to President Bongbong Marcos and the Armed Forces of the Philippines if we will deploy our warships to the West Philippine Sea.
It is up to the Armed Forces of the Philippines to carry out a policy recommendation to the President and the Commander-in-Chief. The President himself has the full authority to decide on this. This is not a recommendation. All I'm saying is that in terms of reciprocity, that can be a policy option that can be carried out.
The Philippines has filed another diplomatic protest against China regarding the recent harassment incidents. The country has already recorded 60 diplomatic protests versus China this year. The Marcos administration has filed almost 200 diplomatic protests so far. Mobile journalist Mary Monreyes, We Are One News.
Yan, very disturbing issues every time may incursion tayo with China. It
And
always...
those laser highlights, it's very dangerous lalo kapag tinututok mo ng
Actually,
ganon.
even yung mga laser pointer na keychain, di ba sinasabi nila, wag mo i-point sa mga mata. Kasi may certain level lang heat yung red light. Ito, ang problema dito, high intensity ito eh. Oo eh.
Tapos they turned off their AIS. Yung para malaman mo kung saan sila galing, anong klaseng barko ito.
Yung identity, yung parang identification system ng isang barko.
Yes, automatic identification system.
Oo.
Yun. So,
kasi pag dumadaan yan, pag may AIS, nade-determine ng radar, sino ba to? Oo.
Pero wala, they turned it off. So, ibig sabihin, there's an intention, di ba? At that time. Pero pang-ilan na to for this week? Parang pangatlo na to eh.
Saka nakakatakot kasi ang pagturo ng laser. Lalo na pag high intensity. We all know kasi most laser pointers are used sa military is to guide missiles. Parang you're marking, you're painting. Ang tawag nila, military use that, they're painting a target. They will use high intensity laser. They will light up an area, tapos doon pupunta yung rockets o missile para magpasabog.
Oo. Alright, to get more insights about this, we have maritime law expert Jay Batombakal on the line.
Good morning, Jay. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, good morning po sa inyo at sa lahat po na nakikinig. Good morning.
Mukhang nag-escalate po ang nangyayari ng incursions natin with China. Now, what should PBBM do this time to the West Philippine Sea? I mean, ang dami nagtatanong, mukhang what we're doing right now is not working.
Well, ano naman po yan talagang expected po yan na gagawin
Yes, go ahead po.
Hello?
Yes,
go ahead,
we can
sir.
hear you.
Go ahead.
Hello? Expected naman po yan na talagang mag-escalate yung... Ano po yung maingay nun?
Wala. We're hearing you okay naman po.
Meron po akong na ano dito na maingay.
Okay,
parang
sige. We'll try to...
interference.
We'll try to call you back.
Anyway.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sige. Hello.
Yes.
Bali sinasabi ko po, talaga expected naman na gagawin talaga ng China yan, na-increase talaga niya yung pressure sa atin sa pamagitan ng mga ganyang klaseng deployments. At umasa tayo siguro na dadami pa siguro yan na beses na gagawin nila yan dahil sa tingin nila, susuko tayo. No? So, siguro ang question dyan is kung ganun nga mangyayari. No? Dahil talagang uunti-untiin nilang pararamihin ang mga deployment nila para nga matakot tayo. Parang yung ginawa nila sa Ayungin noon.
Right. But Attorney, kasi as much as possible, sabi nga natin, on our defense, we would, as much as possible, ayaw natin i-militarize yung zone. That's why we're not putting mga navies natin doon. But by doing this, sabi nga nila, dapat ba na maglagay din si PBBM ng mga navy natin doon sa area na yon to counter yung mga navies ng China?
Well, una po, dapat maging malinaw na nagre-responde tayo sa militarization ng China. No? Yung para kasi ang gagawin na naman nila, sasabihin na naman nila tayo na naman daw nagpo-provoke. Pero una dapat kitang-kita ng buong mundo na sila nga ang nagpapadala ngayon ng mga military vessels na pinatatapat nila sa ating mga civilian people. No? So pwede nilang gawin yon, pwede natin gawin yon. No? Pero para sa akin, hindi lang po yun yung option natin. No? Dapat lang ay maging maingat tayo na una yung malinaw yung ating mensahe, no, na nagre-responde lang tayo sa kabila. No? At pangalawa, dapat ipatuloy pa rin natin na ipakita na talagang ang China dito ang aggressor. No? Siya ang talagang nag-escalate ng situation.
But do you think it's about time na we tackle the issue? Probably humingi tayo ng escort. If not sa US, sa Japanese Navy or sa Australian Navy?
Well, pwede pong pag-usapan na yun. No? Dahil pinapalakas ng kabila yung puwersa nila, siguro parang tinetesting din nila kung kailan na magre-responde yung mga allies din. No? So, dapat din natin pag-usapan yun ng ating mga kaibigan. No?
Okay, base po dun sa aming report kanina, we have already sent 60 diplomatic protests for this year alone. In total, 193 under the PBBM administration. So my question would be, do you think itong mga diplomatic protests po natin somehow nakakatulong pa rin dun sa sitwasyon natin with China?
Well, siyempre po mayroong purpose talaga yung diplomatic protest, and that is yung tungkol sa ating legal positions na, no? At yan ay mahalagang record yan para ipakita natin sa mundo kung kasakaling tatanungin tayo kung ano talaga yung ginawa natin at ano yung mga sinabi natin. Dahil ang pinapalabas ng China tayo daw ang bumabaliktad, tayo daw hindi mapagkatiwalaan, tayo daw yung mga nagsasabi ng mga hindi totoo. Pero yung mga diplomatic protest na yan ay isang magandang record yan kung anong totoo. No? So makakatulong po yan sa ganon. Pwede po yan gamitin sa pakikipag-uusap natin sa ibang bansa. Pwede rin natin gamitin yan kung sakali magkakaroon na ng ibang paraan katulad ng mga conciliation, mediation o kaya mga adjudication at arbitration process.
Alright.
Pwede rin yan kung makikipag-usap tayo sa mga international organizations katulad ng United Nations.
Alright, on that note, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras, maritime law expert Jay Batong Bacan.
Welcome po lang ko at magandang umaga po.
Okay. Alright, kaya nga 'di ba recently last Friday nakita na nasa Malacanang yung Murillo map, which is very helpful nga daw for us. Actually, yung nakatulong 'di ba doon sa claim natin sa West Philippine Sea, doon sa arbitral ruling ng The Hague. And I think siguro maganda i-incorporate din itong Murillo map na to sa natin sa curriculum.
That's why the piece was donated
donated by Murillo, entrepreneur na si Murillo. Kinuha niya from a auction sa Europe if I'm not mistaken. Tapos nung 2014 yun, and then eventually donated it to the Philippines.
Yes, so which puts a counter to yung historical claim ng China because meron din tayong our own version of it. And not only that, it's backed up also by the UNCLOS.
Yes. So yun yung pinagbasihan din nga nung The Hague, nung ruling, 'di ba? At that gives us the assertive, 'di ba? O assertness nung dun sa ating
that gives us our strong claim to the area.
Pero yun nga sinasabi ko, dapat i-incorporate din siya sa curriculum natin dito sa mga bata dito. Kasi ganun ginagawa ng
China is doing that. Hindi mo nga masisising ibang Chinese citizens because they're growing up knowing na sa kanila talaga ang West Philippine Sea. Ganun sila pinalaki. That's what they're taught in their schools, diba? So why don't we teach also our youth?
Kasi doon talaga makikita mo, diba, doon sa Murillo map na yung West Philippine Sea parte ng Pilipinas.
Yun you have to remember, moving forward, itong mga youth na to, hindi mo alam sino dyan na magiging mga politicians. So kung if you teach them early on, ano ba yung nangyayari sa West Philippine Sea, learned sila pagdating sa the time comes na they will assume other political careers.
That's right. Maraming salamat, Puto Bao, for our brunch today.
Puto Bao for brunch today. And that wraps up today's episode of Brunch.
Join us again tomorrow. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro. He is Angelo Caso III. We are One News. Ano ba? Overtime na tayo.